Imagine waking up one morning and finding that the face in the mirror no longer feels like yours. You stumble through your routine, forgetting where you left your keys or needing to ask the same question twice in 10 minutes. At first, these lapses seem harmless, just the occasional senior moment. But then they begin to multiply. You arrive at the grocery store and can't remember why you're there. You glance at your phone and can't recall the day of the week. You drive home and realize you have no memory of the trip. Behind these unsettling moments lies a disease that doesn't strike overnight, but develops silently, often 10 to 20 years before a formal diagnosis. By the time most people recognize the symptoms, irreversible brain damage has already occurred. Right now, 55 million people worldwide live with dementia, a figure projected to triple by 2050, and nearly half of all cases go undiagnosed until it's far too late. Many assume dementia's earliest warning signs revolve around memory loss, but in reality the process begins far more subtly. Long before a parent can't recognize a child's face or a retired teacher can't recall students' names, the brain sends out faint distress signals that are too often brushed aside as normal aging. Yet those signals, changes in smell, appetite, balance, even dreams, can appear a decade before obvious cognitive decline. Ignoring them allows the disease to gain ground until it breaches the threshold of symptoms doctors recognize and can label. By then, millions of neurons have died and neural networks have collapsed. Alzheimer's alone is now the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, claiming over 120,000 lives each year. Once a person receives an Alzheimer's diagnosis, 93% will not survive beyond 5 more years. But it doesn't have to be this way. If you can spot these red flags early and understand why they occur, you may be able to slow, stop, or even prevent dementia from taking hold. One of the earliest warning signs is a diminished sense of smell. Picture waking to brew fresh coffee that smells like plain water, or inhaling your partner's cologne and noticing no scent at all. Researchers at the University of Chicago tested nearly 3,000 older adults using a simple scratch and sniff test and found that those who failed were 5 times more likely to develop dementia within 5 years. The reason lies in the brain's olfactory bulb, which processes smell and is one of the first regions to deteriorate in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. Brain scans confirm that shrinkage here can be detected long before any memory loss becomes apparent. If you begin to struggle to identify familiar aromas, coffee, perfume, home-cooked meals, take it seriously. This subtle change could be your brain's first distress signal. Another oft-overlooked sign is an unusual sensitivity to cold. You bundle under heavy blankets while loved ones lounge in t-shirts, or you endure icy fingers and toes even when the thermostat reads 70 degrees. A 2021 neurology study linked persistent feelings of chilliness to an elevated risk of neurodegenerative disease. The brain, a high-performance organ, demands a constant flow of warm, oxygen-rich blood. When circulation falters, whether due to cardiovascular issues, a sedentary lifestyle, or the early effects of dementia, brain cells begin to starve, leading to cognitive impairment years before classic symptoms emerge. While feeling cold often gets chalked up to thyroid issues or aging, persistent chill should trigger a deeper look into your circulatory and neurological health. Unexplained weight loss ranks 3rd among early indicators. You step on the scale and find you've lost 10 pounds without changing your diet or exercise routine, and no one congratulates you for your newfound slenderness. In fact, a decade-long study by the University of Cambridge revealed that unexpected weight loss in older adults doubled their risk of developing dementia compared to those whose weight remained stable. The culprit is a breakdown in the brain's energy regulation. The brain consumes roughly 20% of the body's calories, and as neurodegeneration begins, energy channels shunt resources away from muscle and fat, causing unintended muscle wasting and weight loss. If you're shrinking on the scale for no clear reason, don't assume it's a health win. It could be your brain quietly draining its own power supply. Balance and coordination problems often precede memory loss by years. You rise from a chair and feel lightheaded, stumble over a rug, or find yourself grabbing furniture to steady your steps. A 2019 study published in Stroke linked frequent dizzy spells, often caused by blood pressure fluctuations, to a 40% higher dementia risk over the subsequent decade. Sudden drops in blood pressure deprive the brain of oxygen, damaging neurons in areas that control both cognition and motor skills. Thus, gait instability and frequent falls can appear well before forgetfulness. If you find yourself unsteady on your feet, don't dismiss it as just getting older. It may be a neurological warning sign that demands medical evaluation. A loss of interest in mentally stimulating activities is another red flag. You used to finish crosswords in minutes and devour thrilling novels, but now puzzles frustrate you and reading leaves you disoriented. Research published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that people who gradually disengaged from hobbies like reading and games experienced a 33% higher risk of dementia within 6 years. The brain thrives on challenge. Learning new skills and solving problems build cognitive reserves that buffer against cell loss. When those neocortical regions deteriorate, tasks once second nature become draining rather than rewarding. If you feel your enthusiasm for intellectual pursuits waning, recognize it as a possible early symptom, not laziness or burnout. Changes in taste and food preferences can also herald cognitive decline. You might suddenly crave an excess of sugary snacks, or your favorite savory dishes taste bland. A 2022 study in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience found that early-stage dementia patients often experience disrupted flavor perception due to degeneration in taste processing regions. This isn't mere indulgence. It's the brain losing its ability to interpret complex flavors, leading to unbalanced cravings. Some patients even eat spoiled food because they can no longer detect off flavors, while others douse every meal in sugar or salt in a misguided attempt to spark taste. Sudden swings in diet, particularly a tilt toward sweets, should prompt a closer look at brain health. Face-blindness or prosopagnosia is one of the more shocking early signs. Imagine trying to greet a lifelong friend but finding their face utterly unrecognizable. A 2023 Harvard study discovered that difficulty recognizing familiar faces can surface up to 10 years before an Alzheimer's diagnosis. The fusiform gyrus, the brain's facial recognition center, begins to atrophy early in the disease process. This is not the normal forgetting of a name. It's a fundamental breakdown in the neural circuits that identify human faces. If you repeatedly misidentify people or feel unsure when looking at loved ones, don't chalk it up to distraction. It could be the brain's first cracks appearing in visual memory networks. Another subtle yet telling shift appears in handwriting. Your once fluid script becomes shaky, cramped, or uneven. A 2021 study in the Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry analyzed handwriting samples and found that altered letter size, erratic spacing, and tremulous strokes often emerged up to 10 years before a formal dementia diagnosis. Handwriting demands fine motor control and coordination, skills governed by regions that deteriorate early in neurodegeneration. If your penmanship slips unexpectedly, you may be witnessing early signs of brain cell loss in motor areas. Sleep disturbances, too, can foreshadow cognitive decline. Frequent vivid dreams or nightmares often correlate with increased dementia risk. The University of Birmingham found that middle-aged adults who suffered nightmares were twice as likely to develop dementia later in life. For older adults, the risk soared to 5 times higher. The brain regions that regulate REM sleep overlap with areas vulnerable to Alzheimer's pathology. When these regulators break down, dreaming becomes more intense and unsettling. If you've traded restful slumber for recurring nightmares or insomnia, consider it more than stress. It may be your brain's sleep cycle unraveling long before memory fails. As you piece together these early signs, diminished smell, chronic chill, unexpected weight loss, balance issues, mental disinterest, taste changes, face blindness, handwriting shifts, and vivid nightmares, an alarming pattern emerges. Dementia is a stealthy predator, gnawing at neural pathways for years before any outward symptoms become unmistakable. But understanding why these signs occur reveals how to fight back. At its core, dementia is driven by three destructive forces: the accumulation of toxic proteins, reduced blood flow and oxygen delivery, and chronic inflammation. Proteins like beta amyloid and tau clump together, choking off synapses and causing brain tissue to shrink. Tiny blood vessels collapse, starving neurons of oxygen and nutrients. Immune cells meant to clear debris instead generate toxic inflammation that accelerates cell death. Together, these processes dismantle memory centers, decision-making hubs, and even the circuits that control basic functions like walking and swallowing. Left unchecked, the condition advances until patients can no longer recognize family, articulate thoughts, or care for themselves. Ultimately, late-stage dementia shrinks the brain so severely that essential body functions fail, leading to death from complications like aspiration pneumonia and organ failure. Today, once dementia reaches its late stages, 93% of patients die within 5 years, statistics grimmer than many forms of cancer. The hopeful truth is that up to 40% of dementia cases may be preventable through lifestyle and medical interventions. By catching warning signs early, before the brain's collapse becomes irreversible, you can take concrete steps to strengthen your mind and delay or even avert cognitive decline. First, prioritize sleep. Deep, uninterrupted rest flushes out toxic proteins like beta amyloid from the brain's waste channels. A 2021 JAMA neurology study found that individuals averaging less than 6 hours of sleep per night had a 30% higher risk of dementia. Commit to 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Establish a calming bedtime ritual. Dim lights, no screens for an hour before bed, and a consistent sleep schedule. If insomnia plagues you, seek professional guidance rather than resorting to sedatives that can worsen cognitive outcomes. Second, improve cerebral blood flow. A Harvard School of Public Health study showed that a Mediterranean-style diet, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and healthy fats, reduced dementia risk by 40%. Foods like wild salmon, walnuts, olive oil, leafy greens, and berries support vascular health, reduce inflammation, and feed neurons. Pair diet with daily aerobic exercise, brisk walking, cycling, swimming, to keep blood vessels flexible and oxygen delivery robust. Even moderate activity, 30 minutes most days, can enhance brain perfusion and grow new capillaries in memory-critical regions. Third, stay mentally engaged. Lifelong learning, social interaction, and mentally stimulating hobbies build cognitive reserves. The Rush Memory and Aging Project found that older adults regularly engaging in puzzles, reading, or new skills delayed dementia symptoms by an average of 5 years. Challenge your brain with language lessons, musical instruments, chess, or complex crafts. Join discussion groups, volunteer, or mentor younger people. By forging new synaptic connections, you create a buffer against early cell loss. Fourth, manage cardiovascular and metabolic risks. High blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol all contribute to reduced brain perfusion and inflammation. Work with your doctor to keep these conditions under control through medication, diet, and exercise. Evidence suggests that tight blood sugar control and blood pressure management lower the incidence of dementia. Fifth, reduce chronic inflammation. Anti-inflammatory diets rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes curb systemic inflammation. Omega-3 supplements may further dampen neural inflammation. Moderate alcohol consumption, like a glass of red wine, can also supply resveratrol, an antioxidant linked to neuroprotection. Finally, stress management techniques, meditation, yoga, deep breathing, regulate cortisol, the stress hormone that exacerbates inflammation and neuron damage. Most importantly, don't wait for memory loss to act. If you or someone you love experiences more than one of these red flags, diminished smell, persistent chill, unexplained weight loss, balance issues, waning mental interests, altered taste, face recognition struggles, handwriting changes or vivid nightmares, seek evaluation from a neurologist. Modern tools like blood-based biomarkers and advanced brain imaging can detect Alzheimer's pathology decades before symptoms erupt. The earlier you know, the more effectively you can deploy lifestyle and medical strategies to preserve cognitive function. Dementia may be silent at first, but it is not unbeatable. By listening to your brain's early warning signals, understanding the underlying mechanisms, and implementing targeted interventions, you can tip the balance in favor of brain health. Early action can mean a lifetime of continued independence and mental vitality. The question is not whether you will face cognitive challenges as you age, it's how prepared you will be to meet them. Act now before those subtle signals escalate into irreversible damage. Your future self will thank you for recognizing the whisper before the roar.